over there, and then we'll open it up to questions and love to hear your thoughts and comments. But thank you so much for being here. Gary.
Thank you very much for coming today. Again, as Phil said, we're really, when you talk about the Philippines overall, we're very limited in our scope. Philippines, you're going to see in a little overlay here in a minute, is pretty extensive. We focus on a specific area, so we're a little bit limited to a regional perspective. And our snapshot's been the last 3 years, and really only 1 to 2 weeks on the ground. And when different people go on these mission trips, they'll tell you the people there will probably show you what they want you to see, not what's sometimes really going on. So we're limited in scope that way. But as Phil said, it has created a passion for us to continue to want to go back. The fellowship that we found with the brethren there has just been amazing. And you know, my work started, as Phil said, I retired working with John Deere for several years, and in 2023 I was asked to take on the responsibility of working with non-local evangelism at Livingston. And in looking at that, at the time the elders approved a plan to look at, instead of just putting pins on a map, on a world map, rather looking at how we could have true fellowship with the men that we support, and then trying to cluster in those areas to look at that. So we started off with 2 men that we supported in the Philippines that were references from David Tant. And this was about 2023 when we took on this new strategic focus. David Tant had not been over there since 2017. We found ourselves, nobody at Livingston had knew the men. So we wanted to find that. The elders wanted to make sure that we were having true fellowship. So that's what started, my journey on that part. I guess I was retired, drew the short straw, whatever you want to say. That's my first trip to the Philippines. But I tell you, it's been a great thing. And since that time, we've also sent men to some of the other men we support, and really are trying to do a thing of true fellowship with these men rather than just sending a check. Getting over there, just going to go briefly through some of these different things, is a little bit of a journey. It's not an easy trip, but we found this path to be the shortest for us, but it still takes quite a bit of time, almost 19 hours in the air, not counting the airports and everything. And that one leg from San Francisco to Manila and Manila back is a little bit interesting. It's the first time I've been on a flight, and I saw the sunset twice on one flight. So it can be a little interesting. But flying in the Philippines is not bad. Once you get there, it's pretty easy to get around the country and pretty inexpensive overall. The 1 hour flight it takes us from Manila to Loag, where we fly into, is about an 8 to 9 hour drive if you had to drive it. So it gives you a little bit of an idea of the different areas there. So which way do I go here, Phil? There. Oh, the big button. Okay, thank you. So this is just a little slide showing a little bit of an overlay of what it would look like on the Philippines over Florida. You hear of a lot of things in the Philippines that happen, and there is a lot of earthquakes, typhoons, volcanoes, a lot of things throughout the Philippines, but it also stretches from, for reference, from Cuba to North Carolina. And we focus mostly in the very far north. Matter of fact, if you go any further, you're in the South China Sea. And this is the island of Luzon, which is one of the largest land masses for the Philippines. But this has been a good area for us to be at and work that. And then locally, a little blow-up close flight, we fly into that Loag City and work with several men and congregations throughout that area. I work a little further east than Phil and where he's been, but we do have some men that we also both know and work with and love very much. So again, the Philippines, our strategic focus far north. It's made up of over 7,600, islands. It's got over 130 languages at least. They think it could be up to 190. So it's very challenging when you go into some of these different parts of the Philippines. And we're going to look at that a little bit more. And that's one of the reasons why we wanted to focus in our area. That language is the Ilocano language and gives us an opportunity to do a little bit more in that area with that language and translation of Bible materials and things like that. Philippines consider themselves Asia's only Christian nation, and that might be a little deceptive to us because it's probably 85% Catholic, and with that Catholic background, that causes some of its own issues within that. But overall, the Filipinos are wired towards God. I mean, they are, you'll see it in the newspapers. We have one teacher that we support. He's a part-time teacher with preaching, and he's allowed to use Bible material as curriculum in his classes for morality and values, something that is just really amazing to see. So, Church of Christ would be probably less than 1% there. Most churches are 20 to 40 in an average size, and those also, most of the men that we support will work with 2 to 3 or 4 congregations. And as Phil said, they've got a desire to preach. If they get $20 more for gas, they'll go call on 2 or 3 other villages if they can, go and preach those. So some preachers might have 3 to 5 services on a Sunday, just going from place to place. So, very beautiful country. Matter of fact, it's if you're a scuba diver, it's one of the world's leading scuba destinations. I'm a scuba diver, but I've never been scuba diving in the Philippines. Just hadn't had the time. But just natural beauty is just amazing. But it is still a third world country when it comes to infrastructure and things like that. But they are improving. This picture up here, you can see is electric windmills and stuff. They're very proud of that. That's even a tourist destination, if you will, some of the work that's been done that way. But, they call air conditioning aircon. We kind of joke that's because it really doesn't work fully, kind of deal. And it is very, very hot over there. We had one place, they love you to set up the PowerPoint and everything. We have a little suitcase that we take with us with clamps, a screen, little portable type extension cord with adapters. And we get it set up because the brother said, we want you to set it up, We get set up and no electric. And I said, brother, I thought you had electric. He says, we do, it just doesn't work today. So it's kind of, so you got to expect certain things like that just from that area. But the countryside itself is just a beautiful, beautiful country. In northern Luzon, it's mostly a large agricultural society, which being from a John Deere background, I kind of navigate to some of those things, so really enjoy what they have. They have about 2 to 3 crops a year, depending on where they're at. It's very similar to Florida. Here we have like 2 crops a year here in Florida. Very, very similar in weather in a lot of ways. A little hotter, a little bit more humid in certain times, but their hurricanes or their typhoon season would mirror our hurricane season pretty much from goes up through November there. Just south of where we go, it's called the salad bowl of the Philippines. So a lot of vegetables, a lot of different things. Luzon itself, or around Loag, rice predominantly. A lot of rice there, but also garlic, tomatoes, eggplant, coconuts, mangoes, just a lot of different things that they work. And most of the men work in some sort of agricultural production, which is a difficult livelihood. They don't have a lot of mechanisms. Mechanical ways to harvest or do those things. A lot of it is manual work, no OSHA, no labor board, a lot of taken advantage of, and a lot of working every day of the week. So it's not unusual to come to some of these congregations and see mostly women, and that's because their husbands are generally working in day labor, and they can't afford to miss work because they could lose their job. So that's something you see there as well. So. But again, you might see on this over here, this is actually rice being dried on the side of the road. Just out of the blue, you'll be driving around and all of a sudden you lose a lane because there's got rice drying on the road. So there's a lot of that around that way too. So construction projects, they make do, very resilient with what they have, but construction projects go in years, not in months. Sometimes maybe even decades by the looks of some things, but it's all money dependent. If there's money to be able to expedite something, and you do see that in some areas where there's new production or a European or American building a house or something, it seems to progress pretty fast because of the money behind it. Most church buildings are really, really pretty rough. They're kind of like sheds maybe, or an outbuilding. It's very depressing in some ways, but very good in other ways to see that it's not really just the building, right? It's the people that's in the building, and Filipinos have no shortage of joy where they have. Also, just when you see different things around, just it's amazing that some of these structures are standing. Northern Philippines in the last September and October of 25 had 4 typhoons come through, major typhoons. And I can't imagine some of these buildings holding up to even a 75-mile-an-hour wind. And we call that a moss blower here, Category 1 in Florida. But these buildings don't have the structural codes that we do or anything else. So they're a little bit more, what do you say, just behind the times in those things for sure. But they make do, and they're not complainers. It's a full cash society. That took a little bit to get used to. If you're outside of any of the major cities, your credit cards aren't going to work. Your American money's not going to work. They do have money trading centers that you can go to in like one of the bigger towns, if you will. But it's all cash, which was, like I say, a little get used to. The largest bill is a $1,000 bill, which is about $17, $17.50. So, we're not, I don't know, I'm not used to carrying a lot of cash. And so it's a little uncomfortable when you have quite a bit of cash for a 2-week place between the benevolence, between some of the places you stay, between some of the other things. But you never feel like you're threatened in any way, shape, or form. I mean, it's a very secure place. Again, Ilocano in our area is the major language. The country of the Philippines used Tagalog as a national language, but there's a lot of people that know the U.S. language too. Matter of fact, if you're preaching and teaching in the church, you'll have people, as you're speaking, you'll see a third to a quarter of the people start shaking their head when you make a point or whatever. Then after it goes through translation, you see the rest of them shaking their head. So it's a little bit of tag that way. But again, they this is just how they roll there. So one of the things that's been amazing to me about the Philippines is what's the best time to evangelize? For them, it's all the time. It's just amazing. It's part of everyday life. Sometimes we think of let's look for an opportunity or let's wait for something to happen. With them, it's just anything. Literally, as funerals last approximately 9 days, and every day they want a preacher to come preach the gospel. So it's not unusual to see some of these preachers work in teams to kind of take some of the load on these things. Not only do they do 9-day funerals, then they have a 30-day anniversary of that funeral. They have a year anniversary, and they keep it going that way. Weddings, it's not just a token reading of 1 Corinthians 13. It's a full-blown, sermon. Bring the preacher to preach. School days, birthdays, not even graduations, but if your child makes a good grade, that's something to celebrate about. Bring a preacher in to talk to the Word of God. It's just really amazing. So, when we look at it, it's like, every aspect of their life, it's like, let's call a preacher in to preach the gospel. So, really pretty amazing and pretty inspirational and motivation to me for sure. Transportation, it's really very few people have transportation, and it would be a small luxury to own a car, but you'll see people use whatever they can to work. I think this jalopy over here is actually a homemade vehicle on the far right over here, made out of some sort of chassis and different things put together with an engine. You'll see the trikes. That are a lot of trikes over here with whole families on them, as far as getting around to go to different places. They have the jeepneys for a bus service, which are very tight and cramped, but they make it work. And sometimes, the schedules aren't like what we would think of in our schedules or like a European country schedules. But it also is very interesting that they don't have a lot of stop signs or street lights. Once you leave Manila, it's rare to see a stop sign or a street light or any signs at all. But they make it work, and it works very easily, mostly because, they're all considerate. They use their horn a lot, but it's not, trying to scream at you or, anything else. It's almost like, a pleasantry, like beep, beep, I'm over here, watch me, I'm over here, I'm watching you, kind of deal. So it's really amazing to see what they do in the north. Of course, the trikes can also be used. It's hard to see this picture here, but as a Ford pickup truck, they've got pigs in the sidecar, as well there. So they just make it work. But the primary mode of transportation for any of the preachers we support is generally a motorcycle, just because of fuel cost and getting around in those things as well. So imagine, not having a Bible in your own language or study materials in your own language. What would you do if you're a seeker? Or if you're trying to develop discipleship out of others, It's a real difficult challenge, and not just in the Philippines, but all over the world where there's multiple languages in these places. And like I said, the Philippines have 130 to 195 languages. So it's been really good to focus on just Ilocano, because have brethren who's given us materials that we can get translated into those, and Bibles that we've been able to give out. We've had a little bit of a project. The last 2 years, we've distributed over 600 Bibles in their languages that can be given out to the members of the church or any new people being baptized. This year, we've got 600 Bibles waiting on us when we get over there to distribute those again. About 800 songbooks in the last couple years, and 800 songbooks more this year for songs, hymns in their own language. This year, we're trying some different things, but we've got Bible study material that we've got translated that they could use up to a year's worth of Bible study material that we're getting to them in their own languages that they could use, kind of an Old Testament theme of the overview of the Bible, and also a New Testament. Our King Jesus is the type we're using. And we also provide them digital formats. We've been able to help some people with just $300 can buy a printer and supplies and everything else for them to be able to print one sheet at a time and things. So we give them some digital classes and some stuff too in their own language. Some things they hadn't had before, and that's hard for us to imagine. We've got Bibles, probably 3 or 4 or 5 in our house that we're not using right now. We got maybe 1 or 2 we use, but $9 for a Bible to them is a lot. To us, we don't think about it in that same term. But again, that's some of these things we're trying to help and do what we can. We never want to make them American Christians. That's not our goal. Our goal is to help support them and help them grow to be first century Christians, and just like what we want to be in the long run. So this is just some other pictures. Common to see a church building on the side of a preacher's house. So this is a church building here. It's actually been converted now into a classroom as for children's class, everything, as they had got some funding and were able to build a little better church. But can you imagine being in that thing when a thunderstorm goes through or a wind goes through? That's just some of the different things they have. Some people meet in the open spaces. And when you have rainy season, 6 months out of the year, that can be a little difficult. They cram into what they can to be able to do it. But they're going to find a way. They're going to find a way to worship. That's just what they have in their mind and their soul. Like I say, they're going to be looking for it very much. So when you're there teaching or preaching, you got to relax with it. You got to go with the flow, because there's a lot of things you might see that just happen. I mean, we've been there and we've had a little bit of a chicken fight start up accidentally, kind of deal to come through. We've had, a dog come walking right down the middle, and you just got to use it as a prop. There's we were talking about a lesson, the seen and the unseen. It was talking about Satan's strategies, and the dog just walked in at the same time. It's just, you got to, hey, if that was Satan, what would you do? You'd hit the doors and the windows, but we don't think of it in those terms. But you go with the flow with it. It's just some of the things you have to do. One place we're at, we went to step over one place, and there's a good-sized scorpion right there, just looking at it. So it's a different place, but overall, again, it's the people that make the difference with it. So, and like I say, the Philippines are wired towards God. It's amazing. The 10 men that we support right now in the last 12 months have had over 150 baptisms. The trip we go on here in a couple of weeks, it's not unusual to see 20, 25 baptisms. Now, we won't baptize any of them. We have the Filipino brothers do that. But the gospel meetings and those things are very effective there. They're just, again, wired to the call of Christ. And David Tant made a quote to me that he thought it was almost like the church was in the U.S. in the 50s and 60s, the attitude of the people there and the growth and some of those things there. I was young in the 60s, so I don't know how that was on there, but it was there. But generally, when you see water and somebody's going to get baptized, it's a 2-man operation. Somebody to dunk them at the top and somebody to hold their feet in the bottom just to make sure that they get fully immersed. And some of the water that they use, it's a little scary sometimes. You think about the providence of God. It's not going to get them sick because they're in stagnant water or something. Just you look at that. This was a picture from when Matt and I was over there, and we were on an anaconda watch. We weren't sure if there was, a little nervous on some of those things. We didn't see any of that, but it was almost the way that felt. But no hesitation, no change of clothes. Let's get it done. There's water. Let's get it done. Let's walk right into it and go. So just again, pretty amazing that way. Each one of these pictures has a story behind it that I could tell, but for sake of time, we don't have time. But with that, you could see it would bring tears of sadness, and then because of the triumph over trials, it'd bring tears of joy. I mean, it's just really amazing. They have so little, but yet they have so much at the same time. In 1 Peter 1:8-9 talks about you rejoice with joy unspeakable and full of glory. The Filipino brothers have joy unspeakable, for sure. Kind of moved us to action on some things. This is something we found about from another brother, but we've been able to help send them some supplies, some different things. Some of it might be hand-me-down, some of it different things, but we've kind of taken on a little volunteer project, not a church project, but volunteers have been able to help send things to the brethren over there to kind of help in the villages and everything else, because small things over here go a long way there. So I'm going to turn it over to Phil, and then we'll ask any questions that we can at the end here. So, thank you, brother.
All right, thank you, Gary. It's been very neat that we both go to the same area because we're kind of able to complement one another's work. And so what I'm doing to complement what Gary and Matt and the Brethren North Livingston are doing is I've been blessed to take students from Florida College over there with me. And so Cheryl and I go, and we have been going with Craig Hecht. That's not a college student. He's actually one of the elders out at Cedar Park. He thinks he's a college student. He's actually a whole lot of fun. But we came up with the idea we would love to take students, and we would love to go over there and do something a little different. And no offense to all the preachers here, but the kind of laughing joke was it's always just old white guys who go over there. No offense, Bob. It's just us. All right, I'm there with you. But it's been exciting to take the students, and so one of the things that's exciting for us. Do y'all remember going to the airport back in the 70s and 80s when people actually showed up to see you? You'll have 30 to 40 who are packed, and they've driven hours just to greet you at the Lawag Airport. This happens every single time we go. And immediately they've got stuff planned for you to do. You jump in the cars, all right, and you take off and you go to a Bible study. It's just like Gary said, everything's a Bible study over there. And so what we've been blessed to do is to have the students lead the Bible studies. And so here's the way it breaks down. We have about 4 or 5 plays that we can run. When we get to the location, it's Omaha, Omaha, call the audible on what you see with the defense, and we take off. My job is to get all the preachers out, all right, so they don't dominate the conversation, and I go do preacher studies, all right? Cheryl and some of the girls will take some of the little kids and go do VBS, and then the other students will divide and conquer for the young adults and the teens to gather around, and this is new to them. This is new to them. The idea to be able to sit and talk in a Bible class, especially for the ladies, is new to them. We want to be very careful with their culture. All right, we do not want to infringe in any way. Like Gary said, we don't want to Americanize them. But to have the opportunity for the young girls to talk and to everybody to enjoy. Something else we've been doing that's been new for them is 4-part harmony. They have the old Sacred Selection songbook almost everywhere you go, and they sing it their way. All right, and what's crazy is they sing it their way, and it's the same way every time. And one of our favorite hymns is, and the kids had never heard it. For Cheryl and I, it was a flashback. If we never meet again this side of heaven. Love to sing it, and well, of course we all start crying, and we got to have them sing it, and it's very powerful. But we've been trying to teach a little 4-part harmony, and that's been a little fun. But for the most part, we sit down, and the students work with the students and the young adults. I take the preachers, and it's just a joy. It's a joy to see such a wonderful appetite for God's Word. And here's how it works. One thing you didn't see in any of Gary's pictures: no ball fields, no golf courses, no movie theaters, none of the things that you and I pass all day long. There's no distractions. There's no distractions. We would look at that and go, oh, man, yeah, but there's another way to look at it. Oh, yeah. Let's go to Rolando and Ludi's house, and let's spend some time in Bible study. And the excitement you see from the kids, kids everywhere. One of the things that we're going to be doing this next year is the students and us, we're going to be helping support some of these congregations that have so many kids in them so that they can do a VBS. Just to have the funds to do a VBS, because the children are everywhere and the children want to come and they want to listen. We've been in communities, and so just kind of picture in your mind a community that clearly doesn't have a lot, dirt floor homes, and you're in a small little church building, and all the little kids from the community are coming and sticking their heads in the building. And we invite them to come in and participate and to listen. And like Gary was saying, this is the mode of transportation, all right? It's a tropical climate, all right? Air conditioning is when your car goes real fast, all right? That's when the air conditions you. But imagine your family packing in. This is Rolando and Ludi. He preaches in Vaughan City. This is him and his family, and they would ride in the trike an hour to go to services and back. Now, here's what's cool about this story now. That's Rolando, all right? And there's Miss Ludi in the back. The young man here sitting on the steering wheel, that is their son, Japhon. Japhon and his wife, Evelyn, work with the church there in Vaughan City with Rolando and Ludi. The other kids, in fact, 3 of them, live in different countries, in Canada, the U.S., and Australia. They went and got degrees so that they could become nurses or something else. And what they do is they send money back home to fund the family ministry there. And that's very, very common. Very common. The commitment from the family and the family unit to gather to worship and serve God. And so, Kabukau, this is where we've gone and done just a teen and young adult weekend together. And so as we split up, there's some VBS activities. And so the girls working with Cheryl. And it's just a joy. Now, Gary shared with you a church. Do you remember that little lean-to that used to be a church? This is their new building. This is Nagillen. We were actually blessed to be there when they had their new building. So imagine, if you will, you're kind of going out in kind of a rainforest look. You're out in a very strong, predominant agriculture community. You're passing turkeys and chickens and pigs and everything else as you get up there. And on the side of the hill, you see a concrete building. And we were there for the first time that they were able to have a big gathering there. And people wept because they actually had a dry floor to stand on to worship God. Now, open air. Concrete building, cost about $15,000 to build it. They did most of it at their own. Craig and others, the brethren out in Austin, helped fund that building. But for $15,000, they were able to build this building and go from here to there. They still have the old lean-to building. Every time there's a storm, it's like one of the men has to go set the building back up. And so what was funny was when we went there the first time, we're all walking into the new building thinking this is great. And they said, well, where's Bible class? And they said, oh, it's about over here. And so I watched Cheryl and the girls walk, and they were walking up a muddy hill to the back. We got church. One church, great. And Cheryl's like, Let me tell you where we were. Well, they were up here. They were up here, and they were so happy. They were so filled with joy to be there. This lady here with the big smile on her face, that's Abigail. When we were there the first time, she was diagnosed with breast cancer. And she's been getting treatments, and she's doing so much better. And isn't it exciting to go back and to see the same people over and over again and to experience their joy? I'll have to confess, and please don't think less of me, but when we first went over, I was like, well, we're the rich people going to help people. But no, we're the poor people being helped by the rich people. And I'm not just saying that. I mean that. Because when Jesus is all you got, Jesus is all you need. And that's why I believe the gospel is growing so much. They, right now, are still not blessed with many of the distractions that we have in our prosperity. And so there is that appetite for the gospel. One thing we're also able to do because of one of the ladies in the church in Pagan City, her name is Katrina Aguilera. She runs actually a prep school that helps get students ready to go to college, and many of them go overseas. She's invited us to come in with the students to lead seminars. So we've talked about anything from technology. Technology is a challenge over there as well. While they may not have electricity in many of the places, they got cell phones, all right? And so that's a challenge over there. And so we've been invited to go back twice now when she hears we're coming to town, and she does an all-day seminar. She invites all the teachers and the students to come in, and people from the area come, and we just get to talk about certain issues, whether it's mental health or technology, and so it's always a blast. Now, this is the rice paddy area that Gary was showing you earlier, Pagupud. I want you to imagine, brethren, that this is your church right down here. You got to get to the church, and on a sunny day, it's great. The road can take you there, but on a wet day, especially a rainy day, when you got to get across the river, you have to park up at the road, and the brethren built a suspension bridge so they could get to the church building. And that's how everybody gets to church there. This particular area, Abraham and his wife are there, and his daughter Mary Rose are there, and this is their home. And what they did, like many brethren did, is they have added on to their home so that they could have a church building. This is their home. I guess you can see how it's air conditioned. But it's filled with so much love. One thing we've had to tell them, and you have to be careful, if you give money sometimes they put the money back into the building, or they'll put it into other needs, and you have to, well, no, this needs to be for you. So you got to spend this on you. This is for you and your family. And so we've had to stress that before. And then let me just share with you one more. This is a church that we got to visit, Barak City, this last time that we were there, and we were really not expecting this. We'd been to a lot of places. But when we met Raymond and Marianne, we found that this place was filled with so much passion and love, but in many ways it wasn't filled with a lot of things. So you walk up a dirt road and you find their home. This is their home. And what they've done to their home is they've added on to their home so that they can have a church building there. Raymond is very handy. He's kind of a fix-it man. He's also got kind of a food truck in their way for he can make money. But he and Marianne want to preach and teach, and so the church comes to their home. So they've added on to their home, bamboo trusses, palm fronds as a roof. Now, I just want you to think about that. 6 months out of the year, it's raining all the time, all right? But this is added on to their home, and this is their passion. And this is what they do. In fact, let's go inside their home. There's their kitchen. And they were serving everybody there that day from their kitchen. It's so powerful. It's so uplifting. And if you get a chance, some of the students are here, talk to them. They can fill you in. If I can brag on them for just a moment. The students that have gone with us have just been over the top amazing. And not only how hard they work and how hard they serve, but in how, in so much of a powerful way, they're connecting with the brethren over there and staying in touch. And so it's a true joy. It's a true joy, isn't it? It's just fun to go over there, and it's been very uplifting. And so these are just a few lessons, and then we're going to open up some questions from y'all that we've learned. Sharing Christ is most effectively done through personal relationships. You don't have to have a lot of stuff. You just have to have a passion and a desire to get to know people, and they know people, and they hang out with people, and they get to know their neighbors and their friends, all right? Also, sharing Christ begins with using just what God's given us. You don't have to have a lot. You don't have to have a lot. And then sharing Christ is the greatest desire of God's people, and that's what you see there. That's what you see there. They do baptize a lot, like Gary said, but holding on to people is a challenge. So you got to work on discipleship. And so one of the things that we're also striving to do over there is to get literature for them to have for Bible classes in their language so that they can teach. And so that's something else we're always trying to take over. And so anybody that has any ideas or ways to help us get more literature to them so that they can teach, especially in the Bible classes, that would be very, very helpful. And something else that Gary has done that I greatly appreciate is they've set up a 501c. Send the Light, and this is for individuals to contribute to so that we can help take care of the brethren over there and specifically needs that they may have. And so I really appreciate his work, and so it's exciting to work together. Did I leave anything out? All right. Went pretty quick there, watching the clock. Any questions for us then on going over there? And this may be a little different from what others have done. Yeah, Ricky. I do not, but we can do what? Oh, yeah, Gary, we actually do. Yes, we do, Ricky. I'm glad you asked. Yes, Gary has those. Yes. Yeah. All right. Yes, sir. Yeah. Oh, hey, Larry.
I work out of Malawi.
Uh-huh.
And the comment you made about learning the culture and learning how to work within that culture. This was the very first year in Malawi that about 75% of the Christians were about to believe the same thing. And then some people came in and demanded that you take a conservative side or a liberal side. And they just absolutely destroyed my work for the last 9 years. So I had to go back and rebuild. When you don't know the culture, please learn it.
Yeah.
And work with me to find that.
Yeah, and that's a great point, Larry. I appreciate you saying that. We have some men that we really, really trust and respect over there, that we listen to them. Egden and Faith Zabio have just been wonderful. They're dear friends of David and Flora Tant. Got to know them very well. Matt and Ronna Lynn, Sibion, as well as Rolando and Ludi down in Vaughan City. And so we are big listeners in listening to what they need. Something else that we found out over there is, okay, what do you want us to do that we can help you in your work? And they said, anything Old Testament. Brethren don't know the Old Testament stories because many of them don't have Bibles and they haven't done Bible readings their whole life. All right, and so we're just getting the printed word into each and every home as much as we can. So it's learning those stories is very helpful. So we have to be careful. I just can't throw out there, hey, a reference to Joshua, and they're going to go, oh, well, who's Joshua? You know, so you have to be careful of that, and so many other things. So yes, sir. Yeah, yeah.
Just what would you say is something that is a takeaway for you for coming here and sharing the gospel here? Like we talk about like making sure to learn the culture there, but for what your experience is there, what do you bring back with you for sharing the gospel here that may, I don't know, shift or change that you think is effective here?
I think personal relationships and establishing relationships is the most effective way to preach the gospel. Now, we have a lot of technology, and I love it, and it's new, and it's great that we can reach folks that way, and I'm all for that kind of but eventually somebody's going to sit down and talk to somebody. You're going to have to sit down and get to know somebody. And then, you know, even over there, I think it is for us, and I would imagine anybody here who's a personal worker, when you bring somebody to Christ and they come to Christ, you need your brethren to rally around and assimilate and bring that person into the family. You know, we don't just need to leave people on their own. And so over there, what's great is that's the community. You're into the community. And so I think that's important. Now, that's one thing I see. Gary, would you add anything to that?
I agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
And in fact, just like every aspect of their life, they bring in, you know, the gospel message. So anything we can be doing to kind of show Christ in our lives or not shy away from it in those situations, I think is part of that positive too. So.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, good question. But thank you. Thank you very much. All right. Anybody else? Yeah, yes, sir. Yeah, John.
I was just wondering you mentioned that there's a lot of baptisms, but that people tend to fall away or whatever. What would you say is one of the biggest challenges for taking a new convert and keeping them faithful? Like over here, you see so much materialism pulling our brethren away.
survival. So one of the biggest challenges they deal with, and Jafon and Rolando will tell you this in the Pagan City area, is if you've got to work in the rice field 7 days a week to make ends meet, it's hard to tell a fella, hey, on Sunday we need you here when he's trying to make ends meet. And so that's why you see so many women. And so it takes a true act of faith to come to the assembly. And so that's another challenge that they have. They don't have elders in the churches. One of the things that we're really striving to encourage is don't be preacher dominant. You need to be led by elders, but it's nurturing those men and helping them see beyond that. In our culture, it's too much entertainment and prosperity, I think, that keeps us away from growing. Over there, I just got to make ends meet, so it takes faith. Does that make sense? And so I think that's one of the biggest challenges but that's kind of hard to, okay, how do I tell a guy? All right, come to church, but you're going to, and so it takes a little more faith. Another thing over there, too, Gary told you it is predominantly Catholic. If you leave the Catholic faith, you are out of the family. And one of the biggest things you lose is you can't be buried with your family if it's a Catholic cemetery. And there's definitely a lot of emotional ties. So it takes a commitment to do that. So, hey, thank you all so very, very much for your sweet attention, and we appreciate your passion for this. And if you'd like to talk more, just let us know. And I'm looking around here, and I'm seeing a lot of faces who I know go a lot of places. And so thank you for your work in the kingdom, and God bless you. Thank you.